I had spent the entire afternoon preparing something special for Daisy. Nothing grand or luxurious, just something simple, something that said, "I love you," louder than words ever could. The house smelled of vanilla and melted wax from the candles I'd lit on the dining table. The soft jazz, playing from a speaker, filled the silence with warmth. In the middle of the table sat a small white cake with her name written in delicate frosting. Beside it, a tiny velvet box held a ring, a diamond that wasn't big, but it meant everything I had. Daisy was turning 35, and after years of shared laughter, small fights, and quiet mornings, I thought she deserved to feel special. I even took the day off work, cleaned the entire living room, and cooked her favorite meal, chicken pasta with cream sauce, the one we used to make together when money was tight. The clock ticked towards 7. I checked my phone again. Still no message. She usually texted me when she left the office, but tonight, nothing. The candles were half melted now. The pasta was getting cold. Then finally my phone buzzed. "Hey, love." Her voice came through the speaker. "I'm sorry, I have to stay late. There's a report due tomorrow morning, and the boss just dropped it on my desk. I can't come home yet." I forced a smile, even though she couldn't see me. "That's okay, Daisy. Work comes first. I'll keep dinner warm." She didn't respond for a moment. Just a soft sigh. Then, thanks to him, "Don't wait up for me, okay?" The call ended before I could say I love you. The silence afterward felt heavy, almost suffocating. I put the phone down and looked at the untouched cake. The candles flickered weakly, struggling against the still air, like tiny hearts refusing to die out. I sat down and stared at the empty chair across from me. For the first time in years, it felt like I was having dinner with a ghost, the ghost of a marriage that once glowed bright and alive. I tried to eat, but everything tasted like nothing. I poured myself a glass of wine instead and looked at the box. The ring gleamed under the dim light, mocking me. I imagined her opening it, tears in her eyes, whispering how much she loved me. But that was just a dream. Tonight, reality was an empty seat and the hum of a refrigerator. By the time I blew out the candles, the room was dark. The birthday I had imagined for her, the laughter, the surprise, the kiss, never happened. Just me, the silence, and a diamond no one would wear. I went to bed early that night, though sleep didn't come easily. I could still hear her voice on the phone, calm and distant, like a stranger speaking through a wall. Something about it didn't feel right. The tone, the hesitation, it wasn't the Daisy I knew. I turned to her side of the bed, still perfectly made. Her scent lingered faintly on the pillow, sweet and familiar, but fading. My mind kept spinning with questions I didn't want to ask. Was she really working late? Or was there something else? I didn't want to believe that thought. Not Daisy. She had always been honest, loyal, steady. But as I lay there, staring into the darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had quietly begun to die between us. Something invisible, like the flame of a candle that burned too long. That night, I told myself it was just work, just a busy season, just my imagination. But deep down in the quiet part of my heart that always knew the truth before I did, I felt the first crack forming. The birthday that never happened became the first night I began to lose her. The next morning, the house felt colder than usual. Daisy had come home sometime after midnight, judging by the faint sound of the door clicking and the soft footsteps that crossed the hallway. I pretended to sleep, but my mind was wide awake, listening to every sound. She didn't come to bed right away. Instead, she went straight to the bathroom, stayed there for nearly 20 minutes, and when she finally slipped under the covers, she turned her back to me. No words, no goodnight. By the time I woke up, she was gone again. Her side of the bed was empty, the sheets perfectly smooth, and the faint scent of her perfume lingered in the air like a ghost of something I couldn't hold on to. On the kitchen counter, a half-eaten toast sat beside an untouched cup of coffee, the one I had made for her. Days passed, and the silence between us grew thicker. She used to hum while cooking, used to laugh at my terrible jokes. But now, she barely looked up from her phone. Her fingers danced over the screen, smiling faintly at messages that weren't mine. When I asked who she was texting, she said, "Just work stuff, Tim. Don't overthink." Overthink. That's what she always said when I was right about something she didn't want to admit. At first, I told myself it was stress. Her company had been going through changes, new management, longer hours. But then she started skipping breakfast entirely, rushing out the door with her makeup half done and her eyes tired but excited. There was something in her smile I hadn't seen in a long time. And it wasn't for me. One evening, I decided to surprise her at the office. I drove downtown after work with some takeout from her favorite Thai place. I imagined walking in, seeing her buried in papers, handing her dinner, and hearing her laugh again. Maybe we'd eat together, just like we used to. Maybe this would fix something. But when I arrived, the lights on her floor were dim. The receptionist had already left, and the glass door was locked. I could see shadows moving through the blinds. Laughter, faint and distant. I knocked once, twice. No answer. My heart began to race. Then I saw her. Through the slits of the blinds, Daisy stood near her boss, Bobby. They were close, too close. Bobby said something, and she laughed softly, touching his arm. Another man, Hank, joined them, and they all clinked glasses like it was some secret celebration. My throat went dry. I stepped back, my hand gripping the takeout bag so tightly that it tore. The sound made Daisy glance toward the window. Our eyes met for half a second. Her smile vanished, replaced by shock. Bobby turned around, but I was already gone. That night, she came home late again. I was sitting in the living room, the untouched food still on the table. She froze when she saw me. "You waited up?" she asked, her voice careful. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Want to make sure you got home safe." She nodded, put down her purse, and walked past me like nothing had happened. No explanation, no apology, just silence. I lay awake for hours after she went to bed, staring at the ceiling, the shadows from the streetlights moving slowly across the room. My chest felt heavy, my thoughts louder than ever. I tried to tell myself I was wrong, that maybe they were just co-workers celebrating something harmless. But deep down, I knew better. The next morning, I made a decision. If the truth was hiding in plain sight, then I was done pretending not to see it. I was going to find out what Daisy was really doing. I just didn't realize how much it would cost me to know. The morning air was heavy, soaked with the kind of silence that sits deep in your bones. I waited until Daisy left for work before following her car from a distance. I told myself this wasn't who I was. I wasn't the kind of man who stalked his wife, but when love starts slipping through your fingers, you'll do anything to catch what's left of it. She drove across town, the same route she always took, to the tall gray building that housed her company. I parked a block away and watched her step out of the car. She looked radiant. Her hair neatly done, her perfume catching the wind, a faint smile playing on her lips. It was the smile of a woman who was looking forward to her day, not the weary, overworked Daisy she'd been showing me at home. I sat there for a long time, staring at the entrance. People came and went, cars pulled in and out, but Daisy didn't come back out. I almost left. Almost. But something told me to stay. Around noon, Bobby arrived, her director. He was tall, well-dressed, the kind of man who always looked like he had everything under control. I'd met him once at a company dinner. His handshake was too firm, his smile too charming. I remembered Daisy laughing at one of his jokes that night. A laugh I hadn't heard in months. An hour passed, then two. I felt ridiculous sitting there. My coffee had gone cold, and I kept checking my phone even though there was nothing to check. Then, the office lights on the third floor flickered on. The blinds weren't fully closed, and through the narrow gaps, I could see them. Daisy, Bobby, and Hank, the finance manager. They were standing close together, laughing. Bobby poured wine into 3 glasses. Hank said something, and Daisy swatted his arm playfully. I could barely hear their voices, but I didn't need to. The way she tilted her head, the way she smiled, it was all there. My stomach twisted. I grabbed my phone and hit record. I didn't know why. Maybe to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. The camera shook in my hands, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Then, as if fate wanted to make sure I couldn't deny it anymore, Bobby put his arm around Daisy's waist. She didn't pull away. She leaned into him, laughing softly, her head resting against his shoulder. Hank joined them, and for a moment, The three of them looked like old friends sharing a secret they didn't want the world to see. Something inside me snapped. I got out of the car and walked toward the building before I even realized what I was doing. My hands were trembling. Every step felt heavier than the last. I pushed the glass door open and slipped inside quietly. The hallway was empty. Everyone else had gone home. I could hear them talking from down the corridor. Their voices were muffled but light, playful. I crept closer until I was standing just outside the conference room door. The blinds on this side were open just enough for me to see them clearly now. Daisy sitting on the edge of the table, her hand resting on Bobby's arm. Hank was leaning back, laughing, a glass of wine in his hand. I took a deep breath and hit record again, my thumb pressing the screen until it hurt. Then, suddenly, the laughter stopped. Daisy's eyes flicked toward the door, toward me. Our eyes met through the glass. "Tim," she whispered, her voice small, disbelieving. The room fell silent. Bobby turned, his smile fading instantly. Hank stood up, confused. For a moment, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. "What the hell are you doing here?" Bobby barked, stepping forward. "I could ask you the same thing," I said quietly, my voice shaking. But I think the camera already answered that. Before anyone could respond, the sound of heels echoed in the hallway. Two women appeared, one older, one younger. I recognized them from photos on social media. Bobby's wife, Hank's wife. They froze in the doorway, their faces shifting from confusion to horror as they took in the scene. The wine, the closeness, the silence. "You sons of," Bobby's wife started, her voice breaking. Hank's wife covered her mouth, trembling. Daisy turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. "Tim, please, it's not what you think." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Then what is it, Daisy? A team-building exercise?" No one spoke. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I looked at her one last time, really looked. The woman I thought I knew was gone. All that remained was a stranger wearing her face. I walked out without another word, the sound of shouting echoing behind me. That night, I uploaded the video to the cloud. Not to share it, not yet, but to keep it safe. I didn't trust myself not to delete it. I didn't trust anything anymore. For the first time since I'd met Daisy, I realized that love could end quietly. Not with a fight, not with tears, but with the sound of laughter that wasn't meant for you. The night after everything unraveled, silence filled the house like smoke. Thick, choking, impossible to breathe through. Daisy hadn't come home. I didn't expect her to. My phone buzzed nonstop, calls, messages, apologies, explanations. I didn't read a single one. I sat on the couch, lights off, staring at the ring box, still lying on the table from her birthday. The diamond caught the faint glow from the streetlight outside, flickering like the last spark of something dying. Around midnight, headlights swept across the living room. Her car. The door opened, then closed softly. I didn't move. I heard her footsteps in the hallway, hesitant, uneven, like a child coming home after breaking something precious. "Tim." Her voice was small, shaking. I didn't answer. She stepped closer, the sound of her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Please," she whispered, "let me explain." "Explain what?" I finally said, my voice low and calm in a way that frightened even me. "Explain why you were laughing his arms? Or why you've been lying to me for months?" Tears filled her eyes. "It wasn't like that, I swear. Bobby and Hank, they what, Daisy?" I stood now, my hands clenched. "They comforted you? Or did you comfort them?" She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. "It just happened, Tim. I didn't plan it. I was lonely, I felt invisible, and Bobby was kind." I let out a bitter laugh. "Kind? That's your word for betrayal now." She stepped closer, reaching for me. "I made a mistake. Please, don't let this destroy us." I pulled back. "You already destroyed us." The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Her tears fell fast, her shoulders trembling. I wanted to feel angry, but all I felt was empty, like every part of me had been hollowed out. "You think this was just about Bobby," I said quietly. "But it's not. It's about every time you looked at your phone instead of me. Every time you said you were busy when you weren't. Every time you stopped choosing us." She shook her head. "I still love you." "No," I said softly. "You love the idea of me. The man who would forgive you. The man who would stay. But I'm not that man anymore. She cried harder, her voice breaking. Please, Tim, give me another chance. I'll fix this. I'll quit my job, I stopped her with a raised hand. You can't fix what you broke by choice. I walked past her and went upstairs. She didn't follow. I heard her sobbing downstairs, a sound that echoed long into the night. The next morning, the world knew. Someone, maybe one of the wives, maybe a co-worker, leaked the video. It spread across Instagram and X like wildfire. The comments were brutal, relentless. Bobby and Hank's names trended for days. Their careers disintegrated overnight. The company issued a statement, then suspended all three of them, including Daisy. She called me over and over, begging me to believe she hadn't shared the video, that she was just as ruined by it as they were. But I couldn't listen. The damage was already done. To them, to her, to me. Neighbors started whispering. Friends stopped calling. The people we used to dine with on weekends now crossed the street to avoid me. I didn't care. All I cared about was getting out of that house. By the end of the week, I packed my things. She tried to stop me, standing by the door with her hands clasped together like prayer. Tim, don't go, she pleaded. I can't live without you. You already did, I said quietly. You just didn't tell me. I walked out, shutting the door behind me. That was the last time I saw our home. The place where love had once lived and where trust had quietly died. Outside, the air was cold, sharp, and clean. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I didn't look back. Not once. Months passed. Seasons changed. The pain dulled, not because I forgot, but because I learned to live around the emptiness. I moved to a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just quiet. The kind of place where silence no longer hurt. I started jogging again, cooking for myself, fixing things around the house. There was peace in simple routines, the kind that didn't demand explanations. The video that destroyed Daisy's world eventually stopped trending. People moved on to new scandals, new distractions. Bobby and Hank were both fired. Their wives filed for divorce. The company issued a public apology and promised to restore integrity. But integrity isn't something you rebuild with press releases. It's built in silence, over time, with choices, something all of them had forgotten. Daisy texted me every few weeks. Sometimes just my name. Sometimes a long message that I couldn't bring myself to read. I never replied. It wasn't anger anymore. Just closure. Some wounds aren't meant to be reopened. One afternoon, an official letter arrived. The final divorce hearing date. The courthouse was only a few blocks away. I almost didn't go, but part of me needed to see her one last time, to end the chapter properly, not with rage, but with truth. The morning of the hearing, the sky was pale gray. The kind of day that neither promises rain nor sunshine, just stillness. I arrived early, sat on the bench outside the courtroom, and waited. Then she walked in. Daisy looked smaller somehow. Her hair was shorter, her eyes tired but clear. She wasn't wearing makeup. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. She glanced around and froze when she saw me. Hi, Tim, she said softly. Hi, Daisy. She sat beside me, leaving a careful space between us. The silence wasn't heavy this time. It was peaceful, like two travelers resting at the end of a long, hard road. You look good, she said after a moment. Thanks, I replied. You too. We both knew it was a polite lie, but it didn't matter. She exhaled. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, not for getting caught, for forgetting who we were. You didn't deserve what I did. Her voice cracked, and I could see the truth in her eyes. Not the desperate kind of guilt, but something real, remorse that had finally settled in after the noise died down. I nodded slowly. I know. I thought if I worked harder, if I stayed later, I'd be worth more to the company, to myself. But somewhere along the way, I lost the only person who ever made me feel enough. Her words hit me harder than I expected, because I had done the same in my own way. I had loved her so quietly that I never noticed the silence growing between us until it swallowed everything. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw someone human, flawed, broken, and trying to stand again. The bailiff called our names. We stood, side by side, and walked into the courtroom. The proceedings were brief. A few signatures, a few polite words. When it was over, the judge said, "You're free to go." Free. Outside the courthouse, Daisy turned to me. "Do you ever think we could have saved it? If we had tried earlier?" "Maybe," I said. "But sometimes love isn't meant to last forever. Sometimes it just teaches you how to start over." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I hope you find someone who sees you the way I should have." "I hope you find yourself," I replied gently. We stood there for a moment longer, two people who once promised forever and now shared nothing but memories. Then she smiled, faint, bittersweet, and walked away. I didn't stop her. I didn't need to. As I watched her disappear into the crowd, I felt something shift inside me. Not grief, not anger, just release. I turned and walked toward my car. The city around me buzzed with life. Laughter, engines, footsteps, the hum of a world that kept moving no matter who was lost or found. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking toward whatever came next. The sunlight broke through the clouds just as I reached the corner. I smiled, small and certain. That was the moment I realized the truth. The last surprise wasn't the betrayal. It was the peace that followed.